Welcome to the Energetically You podcast, where we will be talking about healthy habits, abundant mindset, and optimal wellness. I'm your host, Megan Swan, creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. At 30, I sold everything and went on my own eat, pray, love journey, if you will. And now, at 41, I'm still on my first stop here in Mexico, loving life and feeling more energy than ever before. This podcast is for ambitious women who are looking to level up their energy so that they feel happier and more productive throughout their day in all of their projects and passions. Inside, we are going to be talking about ways to truly tune in to our minds and bodies in new ways to leverage our natural energy sources. So let's dive in. So excited to share this interview with you. Such a fascinating guest. Adora Winquist is a visionary in the nascent field of quantum alchemy, an evolutionary transformative path for self-mastery, which facilitates healing at the DNA level using an amalgamation of plant and vibrational modalities. Adora is devoted to offering global ceremonies, activating and uniting all kingdoms of life on the planet, plant, mineral, animal, and human. She is dedicated to awakening and evolution of the consciousness of humanity. Love so much this interview, how she talked about discovery dives, and it's now on my bucket list to do a retreat with her in the south of France. So let's get to it. Welcome, Adora. I'm so thrilled for our conversation today. Just reading your bio again this morning got me so excited because it sounds so fascinating what you do. And I have an idea of what you do. And I know you have a new book coming out. I want to hear all about that too. But it sounds really complex. So I'm looking forward to you breaking it down for us a little bit. Why don't you tell us how you got started in the realm of healing that you are?
Absolutely, Megan. And I just want to say it's such a pleasure to be here with you today. So thank you for the invite to the conversation. So I would say my journey started when I was very young, and I was much more connected to the aspects of the natural world, the flowers and the plants and the earth and all of the creatures, much more so than I was connected to friends, or maybe even some regard my family. I just felt so alive and safe there. Mm-hmm. And I think my appreciation and my reverence grew from those early years of spending time in the garden or in the creek or in the lake or just in the woods. And then flash forward to being about 19, and I had begun studying some of these aspects of natural healing, like color therapy, and some other areas as well. But it wasn't until my own health crisis. I had like two major health crises that brought me deeper onto the pathway of alternative medicine, but specifically herbs, essential oils, and then energy healing. And so the first was when I had moved to Cape Cod. So I was away from home. I was off on my own. I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't have health insurance. And I would get bronchitis twice a year from allergies. So I was a bit stymied, and yet somewhere I heard about herbs. So I went out to a little shop on Cape Cod and bought a book and 5 different herbs: hyssop, thyme, eucalyptus, licorice root, and fresh ginger. And I went home and made a tea and was amazed by how quickly I healed. And to that point that I haven't had bronchitis to this day, which has been a few moons in between. And so I was amazed. And so I started making teas and tinctures and having anyone in my circle that would say yes to it to receive the plant medicine. And then I found essential oils, and it was like something ignited really deeply within me, almost a memory of working with these aromatics. And so then my journey kind of deepened, so to speak. and travel study to India to be able to understand what it takes from actually planting the seed to having a small bottle of the rare and precious essential oil. And of course, the essential oils are the most potent form of plant medicine. So to garner this level of appreciation and understanding of what it takes to be able to not only grow and nurture the plants, but being in southern India and out in the fields with the women picking the jasmine flowers just as they opened at about 6 a.m. was an incredible experience, and deepened my reverence for the potency of the plants, from everything from their biochemical aspects to their vibrational, their quintessence and their very essence of spirit. And so around that same time, I started studying esoteric philosophy in the form of Reiki, which back in the mid-90s was still relatively unknown. And so after I had my first attunement, I started seeing these colors around people, and I thought it was really incredible, and I wanted more of that. And I wanted to understand more about that because the colors seemed to modulate with an individual based on how they were feeling. And so from my perspective and my journey as someone who experienced chronic anxiety and depression since early adolescence, these two modalities seemed really powerful from a form of transformation. And so that really deepened my study. And from there, traveled to Egypt and to really bring in the aspects of esoteric philosophy and what that really means. And I dive a lot deeper into that into my book when I talk about the soul higher purpose triad, which is kind of my interpretation of this esoteric nature of who we are from a spiritual perspective, but in our physical form of reality and incarnation. And so my journey just really continued, in particular with the second very acute and also chronic disease process of endometriosis. And for those of your listeners that don't know, it's essentially where through hormone imbalance and other causations, the lining of your uterus grows in other parts of your body. And around your moon time becomes very painful as it becomes inflamed. And so there is sometimes bleeding in different parts of the body. And so, this was a very profound kind of breakdown in my own being from my this healing crisis and searching for medical support and not getting a lot of it, especially when this wasn't very well known back in the mid to late 90s. And so my physician was very much like, well, this is all in your head. Here's a script for opiates, and here you go. And, you're a woman, and women suffer, right, through the process of menstruation and so forth. And so it was a very demeaning interaction, and where my physician wanted me to have a hysterectomy at the age of 21. And so that for me was like one of the moments where I drew the line to say no, because from an innate perspective, I knew I was to have 2 children. And so I couldn't take that step. And the step instead that I took at this crossroads was saying, okay, I'm going to choose more self-reliance, self-responsibility with my healthcare, and I'm going to dive deeper into these alternative therapies. And ultimately, that's what brought me to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, to bring in the study of psychodynamics, right, into the healing philosophy. So combining these intersections of plant and vibrational medicine, esoteric philosophy, and psycho-spiritual dynamics really became a kind of synergy for how I not only work in the world, but how I see life and relationships, and also our innate potential for healing. Because I was able many years later to have my 2 children, which certainly wouldn't have been possible had I given my power over to another and went through that process. for the endometriosis. So I think that for many of us that find our passion in life, it comes through our own healing crisis, which then gives us a beautiful opportunity to excavate our own quintessence, our own essence, our own reason for being here. And I do firmly believe that not only each and every step of our life and our journey and our path has brought us uniquely here right now to harness the power of our intention and our life force and co-create with these aspects of the natural world to bring quantum shifts in our, not only our healing, our physicality, but all aspects of our life, whether it's our relationships, our bank account, really living out our purpose, because we all have a purpose for being here and a unique set of gifts that only we can bring to the world. And I think once we go through the journey of excavation to find those within ourselves, it not only changes our lives, but it changes the lives of everyone around us. And then we have the ability to walk that path of self-mastery and bring them to the world for a greater benevolent impact.
Can you take us to that moment where basically you had a deep self-sovereignty to completely question the authority of the physician? Was it, do you think, everything up until that point where you had another vision, a bigger vision of what was possible in terms of self-healing or alternative, or was it more just this deep reaction to the idea that they're suggesting that you never have children, that that's like a good solution to the problem?
You know, I think it was really a set of subtle nuances and subtle aspects of my own awakening. This inner feeling, this inner calling that there was something greater, not only for myself, but ultimately for all of us. And I remember when I was very, very sick, and apparently I had an adhesion to my stomach. So every time I ate, I would throw up, which, you know, not very glorious, grand at all. But even in that, even in the discomfort and the pain, there was a inner voice that surfaced. And that's the voice that I like to call our inner wise one, right? And we all have that. It's just a matter of establishing that connection and listening. And this health crisis brought me to a place of deep listening. And so the comforting voice that everything was going to be okay really became a way of establishing a deeper sense of trust and connection with myself. And then having all of these steps or signs and symbols that would come to me on my next steps were very helpful. Although I will say there was one moment in particular that was defining. And so, you know, the physician continuing to prescribe the opioids. And of course, you know, I was relying on those heavily to get through the day and get through my work and just general life. And so I had one morning I was driving to the office, and I was in this kind of like pill fugue state. And I almost hit a car. I had to swerve. And in that moment, I realized this can't go on. I have to find a different way, because there's no, like, this is not a quality of life in any regard for myself or anyone around me. And having a reliance on this pain medication that doesn't really fully address the pain, it's just a Band-Aid, isn't solving anything. And so that's when I really made a deeper commitment to myself to follow my path and have that be illuminated and guided from a source that was far greater than myself and far greater than my mind.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, can you share with us your maybe some rituals or some mindful spiritual practices that have helped you over the years to tune into that wise one?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics. So I always love, wherever I live or wherever I'm traveling to create a small altar or sacred space. I always travel with crystals, and I always travel with aromatics. And so from these two perspectives, these kingdoms of life, plant and mineral, have these beautiful vibrations for healing, for awakening, for activation, for repairing levels of our auric field, our energy consciousness, and to bring balance to our emotional nature and create greater emotional resilience, and greater clarity of thought, greater peace within us. And of course, when we're able to harness the stress response in a more benevolent way, that is a game changer for our lives. And so one of the most passionate aspects of my work is the work with essential oils, because when you have the quality and the right essential oils, the right formulation, and you inhale them in the moment, because of the proximity from the nose to the brain and the power of both the limbic system and the amygdala, we can literally transform how we feel in the moment. So when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling disconnected, a little low, this is a way that we can modulate not only our feeling in the moment, but ultimately the trajectory of our emotional response, right? And if you think about that, what a game changer of empowerment for retraining our neural pathways to a more positive outlook and expectation on our lives and our relationships and all of these ways that we interact with the universe. Ultimately, because the limbic system regulates so much of our physiology, but specifically mood, memory, and emotion, we have an incredible and potent form of plant medicine at our fingertips. And so, I'm sure many of your listeners can connect with a scent from their childhood. Maybe it's apple pie or pumpkin pie or fresh cut grass. For me, it's a scent combination of lavender and roses. My grandmother must have had a lotion or a powder. And whenever I smell that scent combination, I am brought immediately back to her living room. I can smell the wood of her furniture, the turkey soup that's cooking in the kitchen. But more than that, I feel a sense of being loved, safe, cared for, right? And so our physiology responds to that. Our emotions respond to that. And so when we can retrain our brain and our body and our energy field and our cellular consciousness to heal at these deep levels and move into a greater state of harmony, then it's ultimately empowering what I'd like to call a bridge for the highest expression of who we are to surface, right? So that affects very deeply our relationship with ourselves and ultimately the relationship that we have with everyone and everything around us.
Beautiful. Can you tell us the journey of your book? Has it been a long time in the works? Has it been percolating for decades, or what's the story?
Oh, it's so true. Well, the book Detox, Nourish, Activate, Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love certainly has come from many decades of my own experience and also from my co-author and ally with the plants, Dr. Lulu Schmick. And so, when I was getting ready and starting to write and get everything down on paper, which I love to write on paper still, and I know, we always have to work with the computer to get it to the next level, but I'm really old-fashioned in that way. And so I spent much of my time going through 20 plus years of journals of herbal and essential oil formulas and notes and client notes and my own personal writings for my own journey of healing and my time being a student in the healing arts of many different traditions. And so it was a wonderful way not only to reconnect and have compassion and appreciation for all of the steps of my journey, but also really an active transcendence to say, okay, I've assimilated all of this wisdom, and now it's my gift to humanity to offer this guidebook of sorts of healing, of empowerment, and how we can heal at the level of our DNA and how we can do it with this system to detox, nourish, and activate, because it's really three different steps in the system, right? And then using 11 different alchemical interventions, from essential oils to herbs to nutrition to crystals to meditation and so forth, so you can find what works for you, right? Because we all have our own individual formula and prescription for optimal living and optimal healing. And, when we think of all of these modalities of healing, and, we, both myself and Dr. Lulu would have many customers and clients and patients that would come to us and say, I've been doing this type of healing work for so long, but why am I still stuck in these patterns that keep repeating themselves? Why am I experiencing either a chronic disease process or these emotional patterns that keep surfacing in my relationships? And so breaking it down to detox, to being able to let go of all of the things that no longer serve us, right? Just as if we were to prepare the soil in a garden, we have to till it and pull out the roots of the weeds before we can plant those seeds and nourish them with the fertilizer and the sunlight and the water, right? And all of our positive intentions for those seeds to flourish, to activate their own vital life force and their own bounty to actualize into, those beautiful fruits and flowers and all of those aspects of our intentional practices as well, our soul's longings and desires.
I love how you say that. Yeah, I started out as a coach, really focusing on the detox level of, what are people consuming in terms of food and drink. And then very quickly I saw, no, it's like every single thing we're consuming, absorbing, be it information, be it the people you're spending time with, the environment, all these things. And so I love that you talk about that in so many layers and the three processes being so essential, because it's complex, but it's also very simple at the end of the day, don't you think?
Absolutely, Megan. I think that's really brilliant the way that you said that. But, the detox part is so critical for us to be able to really create those sustainable or quantum shifts, not just in our physical health and well-being, but in terms of our consciousness too. And so, from the perspective of complexity, I see that more as it's multi-layered, multifaceted, multidimensional, like we are. But simplistic, and it just takes one step first, right? And then to perpetuate those new healthy habit patterns that create more benevolent experiences and interactions in life.
Exactly. Beautiful. So where can we find the book? I want to get it.
Oh, you can find the book at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, even with our publisher in London, aeonbooks.co.uk. Or, of course, at my website, AdoraWinquist.com, where you can purchase a signed copy. You can join our quantum community, which is dedicated to living a life of thriving in all forms and facets of life. We also send out a weekly newsletter with our events. Every week, I teach a meditation in conjunction with the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. It's complimentary. It's every Thursday. Although the next 2 weeks, while I'll be traveling in France while I'm leading a retreat in southern France. So we'll have, I think, recordings for the next 2 weeks. But we have just so many wonderful ways that you can join our community, from a complimentary content perspective to receive all of the tips and interventions and inspiration of alchemy and essential oils and crystals and much more. And then many products and other services and other healing groups and many more meditations to come and retreats in the future.
Amazing. So can you just give me a bit more detail of, like, is the book kind of like a reference for, like, are there healing recipes, if you will, or is it more the theory?
I would call it a revolutionary guidebook, because it's filled with the foundational understanding of the aspects of trauma that we've experienced and how to come into a place of deep authenticity and introspection with yourself with these wonderful discovery dives that go into all of these aspects. And when we talk about energy, mood, and love, we talk about energy from the perspective of the adrenal system and how to detox, nourish, and activate that. Rich with many formulas, from nutritional recommendations to specific meditations, essential oil formulas, herbal formulas. Then we go and talk about love, and so the heart and the cardiovascular system. So again, going into detox, nourish, and activate, and it's also filled with beautiful rituals for each of those phases. And then when we talk about mood, it's the brain and the nervous system, which is so, this wonderful supercomputer of sorts that can really regulate not so much of just our brain chemistry and our mood, but our connection to divine consciousness. And illumination and expansion, and really bringing us to a greater understanding of who we are, how powerful we are, and our relationship to the universe as a whole.
Love everything you just said. Oh my goodness. And I think I'm going to take the discovery dives. That's such an amazing phrase. So we'll obviously share all the ways that you can connect with Adora and get her book in the show notes. One last sort of selfish question. You mentioned at the beginning that you see colors around people. Does that work virtually as well, or only in person?
It does. It does.
You see a color around me? I'm so curious.
Let's see. I see a lot of purple, like lavender, especially around your left side, which speaks to me in this moment of a deep connection to your feminine nature, and also perhaps a very deep connection to your mother lineage, lineage on your mother's side. I also see a lot of activity, engagement from a mental perspective, like you're a real quick thinker. So I see a lot of yellow and blue around your right side of your head. And also a deep capacity for love from your heart. A lot of openness there. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Adora. I'm so glad I asked, even though it was a bit of a selfish question, but so is that something you do too? Do you have one-on-one clients, I'm guessing, for all?
Yes. So I've had a client practice for the past 20 plus years. So where I do private sessions with people, I also do Akashic record readings. And it's really been such a honor and privilege to be able to walk next to my clients and to be able to create and support them in these quantum shifts from their own journey of empowerment and freedom and healing from very deep levels of trauma.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was really precious time to connect and get to know you better. And I look forward to joining your community and getting your book and getting so much wiser in this area, because I feel like I'm just starting out. I'm a huge fan of essential oils and getting into crystals, but kind of a baby in the understanding of all the alchemy and the specific frequencies and that kind of stuff. And I know that it's so powerful.
Well, Megan, thank you so much. It's really been such a joy and pleasure communing here with you today. And we, of course, love to welcome you into the community.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, that was such a delightful conversation with Adora. I am getting on her list for her Mary Magdalene South of France retreat next year. Cross your fingers, I'm going to make that work if anyone wants to join me. Thank you so much for listening to Energetically You. I hope that this episode has helped you to tune into your natural energy sources so that you feel more energized and focused throughout your day. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help more ambitious women just like you accomplish their goals. Don't forget to take a screenshot, Share it on social or in your Instagram stories and tag me at Megan Swan Wellness. See you soon.